we know that on Jesus' final Passover, he was taken by the religious leaders to Pontius Pilate for judgment, where he was ultimately condemned and crucified by the Roman soldiers. But the question is, did they really kill Jesus? Did they kill Jesus? What actually happened on that cross? And we're going to try to answer that today. All right. Now, the answer actually comes in the teaching. We can see it throughout all of Jesus's teaching concerning this issue about his upcoming death. But we can see it in particular in John chapter 11 in the teaching concerning the Good Shepherd. Now, I'm not going to read all of the passage, but we understand that what Jesus is relatively saying is, as the true Good Shepherd, he shows his ultimate love. What type of love? His self-sacrificing love, in that he lays it down for his people. But I think what we do, sometimes we run over that passage too quickly and we fail to think about what he is actually saying. So let's just take a look at it. See what he says and let us draw our attention. Let's try to think and understand exactly what it is that he says will take place in his crucifixion. All right. So let's look at John chapter 10. I may have been saying chapter 11. John chapter 10. And we're going to look at verse 11. Notice what he says. I am the good shepherd, and the good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Notice he says that the good shepherd does what? He lays down his life. He voluntarily lays down his life. All right. And now let's move on to verse number 15. Even as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and what? He says it again. And you can't miss it. There's an emphasis there. I lay down my life for the sheep. So again, what does he say? It is a voluntary action that he himself does. All right. Now let's look at it again in the final point concerning this in this section, verse 17. For this reason, the Father loves me. Why? Because I lay down my life so that I may take it again. So there he gives another point concerning that. I am voluntarily laying down my life. And here is where the issue comes. Some think that what he did was he allowed himself, he allowed himself to be taken and to be killed. And so therefore, ultimately, they killed him because he allowed them to take him. But is that what happens? Let's look again at verse 18 and see. No one has taken it from me. And to be honest with you, no one has taken it from me. They didn't really translate it right, because they said here in verse 18, Udas ara autain af emu. No one takes it from me. So he doesn't say it in the no one has taken it. Actually, he says no one takes it from me. But what? And he used a strong contrastive statement. But instead of someone taking my life, no one is able to kill me. What? Again, I lay it down on my own initiative. I lay it down of myself, right? I have authority to lay it down. I have authority to take it up again. This commandment I received from my Father. So what is the point here? He says that no person can kill him. No one can kill him. No one can take his life from him. The only way that he can die is he has to lay his life down. All right. Now let's just move over to John chapter 19 for good measure. We're going to stay in John as we kind of wrap it up a little bit. And let's see what happens when we actually get to the instance of our Lord on the cross. And notice what he says. Therefore, John 19 and verse 30 is where I am. When Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, Tetelestai. That is, it is finished. And he bowed his head And here's what the verb says. He bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. In other words, the moment of his death was his own choosing. And now it is fulfilled what he said in his teaching in the Good Shepherd when he said, what he said, no one takes my life from me. In other words, I understand that the intent of those soldiers was to kill him. The whole point of putting a person on the cross, crucifying them, is to kill him. But what I am showing you theologically, what I'm showing you from the mind of God and the person of Jesus himself is what? He died because he wanted to. He could have hung on that cross forever and never had died. He chose the moment and the time of his death. Notice, he bowed his head and he gave up his spirit. Notice, they never killed him. He voluntarily released his spirit from his body. He gave up his own life. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. And if you like, leave a comment. You know where. See you next time.